If you had told me that a $12 act of kindness at a local hardware store would save my life and protect my family land from a predatory monster, I would have called you crazy. Yet, there I stood on a crisp October morning, gripping the weathered frame of my workshop door just to keep my weak knees from buckling under the sheer weight of terror. What lay hidden in the sawdust of my sanctuary changed everything I thought I knew about the people closest to me, exposing a dark plot that still chills my blood to this day. My name is Arthur, a 67-year-old retired pipeline welder who gave 3 decades to the harsh industrial yards of northern Montana before my joints forced me back home. After losing my beloved wife Martha to a sudden illness a few years back, my only salvation was the woodworking shop I built behind our countryside home outside of Great Falls. Surrounding our house were 60 acres of pristine timberland, including a prized grove of black walnut trees my grandfather planted, which I intended to pass down to my daughter Clara as a family legacy. Clara was my pride and joy, but her marriage to a slick commercial developer named Vance always left a sour taste in my mouth. Vance was the type of guy who viewed every family dinner as a business pitch and always looked for an angle to exploit. I tolerated him solely for my daughter's happiness, keeping my distance while maintaining a watchful eye on his suspicious nature. My instincts proved correct on that gentle autumn Tuesday when a routine trip into town turned into an unsettling encounter with fate. While purchasing some expensive premium chisels at the hardware store, I noticed an elderly, fragile woman at the counter ahead of me trying to count out pennies for a single brass hinge. She was short by $12, her wrinkled hands trembling with a quiet embarrassment that broke my heart. Without a second thought, I stepped forward and paid her remaining balance, telling the young cashier to ring everything up together. The old woman turned around, her piercing silver eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that felt deeply heavy. She asked for my name, and when I introduced myself as Arthur Vance, she paused as if an old memory had suddenly resurfaced. We walked out to the parking lot together, but as we reached my truck, her fragile demeanor vanished as she gripped my forearm with surprising strength. Her voice dropped to an urgent, commanding whisper, warning me that, when my son-in-law visited my shop later that week, I must let him take whatever he wanted without any argument or hesitation. Her final instructions were the strangest of all, demanding that I absolutely must not sweep the sawdust off my workshop floor until the sun came up the following morning. I thought she was losing her mind and told her my son. She walked away toward a battered sedan, leaving me with a cold sensation crawling up my spine like someone walking over my grave. 2 days later, the roar of a heavy diesel engine echoed up my gravel driveway, and my heart sank as Vance's massive black pickup truck pulled up with a large flatbed trailer. Vance climbed down alongside a burly stranger wearing a dark hoodie that completely obscured his face. Vance flashed his usual salesman smile, claiming a high-end client in the mountains wanted some premium reclaimed walnut wood and asking if he could log a few of my grandfather's trees for a sample. Remembering the mysterious old woman's warning, I suppressed my anger and simply nodded, telling them to help themselves to the chainsaws and straps. They drove to the back ridge, and 2 hours later, they returned with 3 massive walnut logs worth thousands of dollars. Vance then asked to grab some food from my kitchen before their long drive back, but while his friend ate, I watched Vance sneak down the hallway toward the private room where I locked my important legal documents. He stayed in that room for several minutes before they finally departed into the evening shadows. Left alone in the quiet house, a deep sense of dread overcame me, prompting me to check the filing cabinet where everything seemed untouched, but somehow wrong. Remembering the old woman's strict rule, I forced myself to leave the thick layer of fresh sawdust on my workshop floor undisturbed, locking the door and spending a sleepless night watching the clock until dawn. At first light, I rushed to the shop with a flashlight and discovered 2 distinct sets of footprints pressed clearly into the sawdust. One matched Vance's heavy work boots, while the smaller tracks led directly to an old storage trunk in the corner that had been shifted from its usual spot. My hands shook as I opened it, finding a hidden duffel bag stuffed with bricks of illegal white powder, packaging baggies, and an envelope containing $20,000 in cash. The terrifying reality immediately clicked as I realized Vance was framing me to have me declared incompetent or imprisoned so he could seize my valuable land. I photographed every single detail, including the messy tree cuts and the footprint trails, before rushing to the office of my lifelong friend and attorney. There, we discovered that my actual will had been replaced with a forged document granting Vance total control of my entire estate, proving this malicious plot had been planned for months. Before involving the police, I tracked down the old woman through local archives and discovered she was actually my grandfather's long-lost sister, Aunt Evelyn. Sitting at her kitchen table, she explained that decades ago, her own son had swindled her out of her family farm using similar tactics, leaving her husband to die of heartbreak. Evelyn had spotted Vance buying duct tape and poison earlier that week while asking around about my schedule, prompting her to intervene and save me from her past tragedy. The state police acted swiftly once I delivered the photographs, the illegal contraband, and the forged documents. 12 days later, Vance was arrested outside his office, and investigators uncovered his massive trafficking operation along with a digital journal detailing his plan to poison my food over the holidays. His accomplice in the hoodie was captured at the border, ensuring that the people who tried to destroy my life would spend decades behind bars. Clara was absolutely devastated by the revelation, heavily pregnant with my grandson and trapped in the ruins of a shattered marriage. I brought her back to the farmhouse, holding her just like I did when she was a little girl, and promised we would survive this storm together. Today, my 2-year-old grandson Oscar sits on a small wooden stool in the shop, watching me craft a beautiful chest from the very walnut logs recovered from the betrayal.